Black Panther is certainly an interesting film. It has its fans and it also has its haters. I was refraining myself from talking about this movie because it was also nominated for Best Picture, and many were against that. And yeah, I can understand that. But for me personally, I love Black Panther. It is my personal favorite MCU movie, and through this video, I just wanted to share my love for the film. It's all just positive vibes. Um, Black Panther has many merits, but just to make this video a bit more streamlined, I'm gonna break it up into sections, right? Um, Firstly, here are some little things about the movie that I love. The graffiti designs in the walls of Shuri's lab, the fact that Claw was ready to give Ross his playlist, the design of the Black Panther suit, both new and old, Killmonger's scars, the Wakandan sunset, this upside down shot. The score is perfect. There's a channel named Sideways that talks about the music of the film, so check that out. The two songs played in the film, one of them is called Pray For Me by The Weeknd and Kendrick Lamar, and the other song is All the Stars Are Closer, also by Kendrick Lamar. So, you know what, let's just begin talking about the movie, right? Our main character is T'Challa. The story takes place after Captain America Civil War, and he had a great arc in that movie as well. After his father was murdered by Zemo, all he wanted was revenge. But by the end of that movie, he doesn't let vengeance consume him, and he grows as a character. So then, what can T'Challa possibly do in his own movie now? He has a new arc, but not one that hinders his arc in Civil War. The reason his character arc works is because he has a belief, an ideology, which is the driving source of conflict for the rest of the movie. He believes in keeping Wakanda hidden from the world, just like his ancestors. Now, T'Challa loves Nakia, and I love that she has an actual character and her own beliefs. During a scene where T'Challa and Nakia are walking amongst the streets of Wakanda, Nakia presents her ideology, which is that Wakanda should be reaching out and doing more and helping those in need and provide them resources that Wakanda has. This forces T'Challa's beliefs to be challenged, but he sticks to them. Upon meeting with Wakabi afterwards, he also presents his belief, which is the opposite of Nakia's. He believes in keeping Wakanda hidden as he believes that bringing in refugees into Wakanda will cause them to bring their problems with them. This puts T'Challa in a tough spot. Plus, he's also going to be crowned king, so the pressure is immense. Also, I love the battles in the waterfall. T'Challa has stripped off his power, so it adds a level of stakes to the fight, because he isn't. Plus, it's good to see these comic book characters do well executed hand to hand combat and use the weapons creatively. T'Challa could also die in here, making him more vulnerable, adding to the stakes. After T'Challa becomes king, he also goes to the ancestral plane. And I love this gorgeously lit scene with a purple background where he meets his father and he talks about the pressures of being a king. It's a very beautiful scene and it's something I can relate to. Feeling the pressures that come with responsibility is something very human. Now, one of the traits to have a good villain is to have them pressure the hero into making difficult choices. And Killmonger is the best villain for T'Challa specifically in this movie. Firstly, he's charismatic, he's very evil, and he's very terrifying. But he's also empathetic. He isn't just a villain with a tragic backstory. The reason it works is because the tragedy is directly related to T'Challa's father. It is personal. In the opening scene of the movie, our protagonist's father T'Chaka visits his brother Njobu in the US and figures out that he apparently had betrayed Wakanda. Zuri, T'Challa's friend now, was actually working with Njobu, but he was a spy for Wakanda. But then the scene ends weirdly because T'Chaka takes the vibranium that was stolen and he leaves in a spaceship, and then we see this random kid playing basketball downstairs looking up. In the present day, our heroes capture Claw, and he reveals to Everett Ross the Wakandans have a mind full of vibranium. He knows the truth, and he could possibly expose the truth about the African nation. But then Killmonger breaks in and rescues Claw. Two important things happen. Firstly, T'Challa notices that Killmonger has the same necklace his father had. Secondly, Ross jumps in front of Nakia and takes a bullet for her. This is great because it forces T'Challa to make a difficult choice that challenges his beliefs. If he does nothing, Ross could die. But with the technological advancements of his country, he could save Ross. Problem is that Ross doesn't know the real truth about Wakanda. And not just him, even the supporting characters such as Nakia and Okoye have their beliefs. Nakia says that they should heal Ross in Wakanda, and it makes sense for her character because she wants Wakanda to open up to the world. Meanwhile, Okoye thinks it was Everett's choice to take the bullet for her and that they should not take him to Wakanda because then he would know the truth. These beliefs are understandable. There is no clear wrong side, but just two sides that make sense if looking from their perspective. But T'Challa makes a hard choice and chooses to take Ross to Wakanda to heal him. Also, just one thing, can we appreciate how gorgeous this shot looks? Like, it's a painting for Christ's sake. It's a painting. Jesus, it's oh god. Um, Now, in many of your favorite film screenplays, the midpoint is an important part of the film because in the midpoint, our characters learn new information that changes the status quo of the entire story. Not to spoil, but Parasite has a great midpoint scene, and this film has one too. After T'Challa sees the necklace Killmonger was wearing, he asks Zuri about the truth. Zuri finally tells him, and we get the continuation of the opening scene of the movie, the one that was left abruptly. It gives us more context. Njobu wanted Wakanda to rule other nations, and so he tried to kill Zuri for betraying him, but T'Chaka was forced to take his own brother's life. And when they leave, we figure out that the kid we saw earlier was actually Njobu's son, and that they had left him behind, and that kid, now traumatized, grew up to be Killmonger. What a genius piece of writing! This does many things. It goes with one of the themes of the film about healing the sins of the past. T'Challa realizes that his ancestors weren't perfect, and now he has to deal with the problems his father created. And it also gives Killmonger an empathetic origin. Now he is not just some angry dude, he's a man with a dark past and wants revenge. Our heroes are not perfect, and it's just great how the villain was created from the hero's mistakes. It's all character driven writing. This is also a great midpoint as T'Challa learns new information that changes the status quo of the story. He has learned who Killmonger is, why he is doing what he is doing, and this also challenges his notions about following his ancestors. It is not necessary to have a midpoint like this, but for this particular movie, I think it is certainly beneficial. Killmonger meanwhile kills Claw and then he takes Claw's body to Wakanda because he knows their hatred for him. Meanwhile, T'Challa and the kingdom are wondering about the appearance of this stranger who claims to be a Wakandan. Killmonger then challenges T'Challa to the throne after letting them know that he's actually the son of Njobu and why he has come here. Then another hand-to-hand battle takes place with a gorgeous backdrop of the sun setting. Killmonger kills Zuri for betraying his father, and then he also kills T'Challa and becomes king. Now, here's the thing, right? Many people say that it's obvious T'Challa isn't dead, so it's bad writing. He's the main character, so yeah, and also at that time, the trailer of Infinity War had released, and he was in the trailer, so it's obvious he didn't die. But the thing is, that isn't really the point of the movie. The point of T'Challa supposedly dying is so that Killmonger can become the protagonist of the story temporarily. The Queen, Shuri, Nakia, and Ross go to Umbaku. Meanwhile, Killmonger becomes king. And can we just appreciate how great this shot is? It's not just stylish, but also signifies how Wakanda's situation is now upside down, as they just lost their king to an outsider as he walks towards the throne. Killmonger explains his plans. He wants to open up Wakanda similar to Nakia, but the difference is that he wants them to use their advanced weapons to rule over their oppressors. But this time, he doesn't sound just like a generic bad guy because we know where he is coming from. Plus, he is beginning to sound just like his father. We know he's right on some level. When many black people were oppressed in the past, Wakanda could have stepped in and helped, but they chose not to. So Wakanda isn't some perfect nation that always makes the right decisions. So Killmonger's plan should make sense. But it is still not morally right because he wishes to become the oppressors themselves. Sometimes it's not the intentions that make someone a villain, but the lengths as to show how far they're willing to go that does. And before Killmonger can feel like a heartless monster, he goes to the ancestral plane as per traditions. And I love that when he goes there, he's back in his home. We still know he's in the ancestral plane because we see the purple backdrop, but it's so far that you can only see parts of it through the windows. It's far away and out of reach, just like how he is out of reach with Wakanda. He's an outsider to them after all. He then sees his father, just as T'Challa saw his, and the shot cuts to a young Killmonger. This is probably my favorite cut of the film, personally speaking, because without a single word or dialogue of exposition, it really shows us that underneath all the battle scars is just a young boy filled with rage who never really grew up, who never really got over his trauma. That single cut has so much purpose and subtext, it's very impactful and informs more about this character. The father and son talk about being outsiders in Wakanda, and they both have something to connect to. They're both abandoned people. Lost. The film made me care about this heartless killer. This scene grounded me back. He's a great villain, not because we agree with him, but just that the film wants us to understand him, where he's coming from, and why he is doing this. Which is why this is actually my favorite scene in the entire movie. When the characters actually realize that T'Challa is indeed alive, it is great because Wakanda is so proud of their methods of survival. When they bury the king, it's usually in the sand, but when the Jabari tribe do it, they did it with ice, and it works just as well, if not better. T'Challa then goes to the ancestral plane, and when his ancestors welcome him there, he refuses. T'Challa had realized the flaw in his beliefs and the flaw of his ancestors. He tells them to their face that they were wrong to leave the child behind and prepares to face his father's mistake. This is where he changes. Now the ending battle is actually pretty great according to me. I love the scene where T'Challa returns in this great entry, although I wish the lighting was less bland. I mean, in the trailer, this shot looks so much more beautiful with a gorgeous sunset in the background and everything. But still, I love that the battle isn't just Black Panther versus some faceless aliens. It's a Wakandan civil war. The fight scenes are great. I love how Wakabi surrenders to Okoye after seeing what had become of his country. I also love that Ross had a part to play in helping the good guys. But my favorite part of the battle was the conflict between T'Challa and Killmonger. I know, bad CGI, but that doesn't bother me too much because if the writing was bad with the bad CGI, then it would be bothersome. Now, here's one thing I love, right? When Shuri provides T'Challa a choice to choose between two suits, the Black Panther suit and the Golden Jaguar suit, he is tempted to wear the Jaguar suit, which is more open and stylish and more visible. But then he goes for the other one because he doesn't want to be noticed. Logically, it makes sense, because he doesn't have to be noticed in the dark and stuff. But it also makes sense when looking at the character's belief. T'Challa believes Wakanda should remain hidden, just like his suit. Meanwhile, Killmonger wore the Golden Jaguar suit. Logically, because it's the only suit available, but it's also that he wants Wakanda to be open. Even his suit is more noticeable. Now, the fight between Killmonger and T'Challa could have been stale, but the film knows the internal conflict present. T'Challa still points out that Killmonger has become what he hates, and Killmonger says the world took everything away from him and everything he ever loved. And we understand that as well. The fight isn't just for stopping Killmonger, but it's about stopping the process that creates Killmonger. And when T'Challa stabs him, instead of it being a celebration, it's tragic. Killmonger talks about being a kid running around believing in fairy tales. We feel bad. But before he dies, he finally gets to see the Wakandan sunset. T'Challa is still ready to help him heal, but Killmonger actually prefers death, and it's just a perfect ending for these characters and for the theme of the movie. In the end, T'Challa changes his ways and opens up Wakanda to the rest of the world. Killmonger's essence lives on because he forced the protagonist to change his mind. He finds middle ground as he opens up Wakanda to the world, but only to help those in need and not to conquer. To me personally, this is MCU's masterpiece. It's just very impactful to me personally, and it works. It works really well.
And like I think that's one of the reasons why Black Panther is the most successful movie they've ever made. Because I saw it with my two friends who don't like Marvel movies and had not seen a single other Marvel movie, and the only point in the film where I had to lean over to them and explain something was the end credits, where they just went, "Who is this guy?" Right. But for the rest of the film, they were just watching this one story with characters they got to know. They were introduced at the beginning of that story. Didn't matter that Black Panther's been in Civil War. They knew everything they need to know about this guy from the beginning of that movie, and it resolves its own narrative concerns.
Right. And the end isn't only satisfying because it seems like it's going to change the larger universe.
No, the end is satisfying because of the way that T'Challa has grown.
Right.
As a human being.
That's all we want.
That's what we want.
Now, in a good sequel, it has to be a good story with good characters, of course, but it also has to be a faithful continuation to its previous movie. In Spider Man 1, Peter learns that from great power comes great responsibility, but Spider Man 2 explores what it means to live up to that responsibility. It's a much more deeper and perfect continuation of the themes of its predecessor. So, if Black Panther was about opening up Wakanda to the rest of the world, I hope the upcoming sequel is about the consequence of doing that. All the good and bad that can come from it, and what could go wrong. Now, I don't know what's going to happen at this moment, or how will they even make Black Panther 2 without Chadwick, because unfortunately he's gone. But I'm certainly excited to see what comes because I believe in Ryan Coogler and his ability to tell stories. So, yeah, thank you for watching, and have a great day.